Thursday that talks about the town of Carterville, which is just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, a growing town, growing in economic development, and growing in population, growing in about every way that you can, but trying to do it in a smart way, and in a way that builds this sense of community that is a 150 plus year old tradition. And so maintaining that and growing in the right way. And it's just a great model of how to do it. And so we talk here every Thursday about how we're growing. We talk about things that are coming, things that are not coming, things that affect the town. And we're glad to have you with us. We've been off for a couple of weeks. And so if you're just joining us new, we appreciate you joining us. And we have every week with us Maureen Frazier, who is the town vice mayor currently. So the town vice mayor, and John Duncan, who is town economic development director. John the Blenders Duncan today. We'll talk about that some to find out. He always kind of sneaks something in on us. So we'll figure out what that is. But how you guys doing, Maureen? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. It's a busy time of year, but it's good to see you all. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. Yeah. So, I introduced you.
You've changed, Maureen. I hardly recognize you when you came on the air.
I'm still the same old. Nothing new.
Are you still on cloud nine from winning your recent election? You got 4 years?
That seems like it's been so long ago, and it really wasn't. But it's hard to believe. Christmas is a week away almost. So, yeah. We've been down. I mean, it's been, we had the oath of office last week, and it was kind of like, oh gosh, we have to do an oath of office. We were all back in working, work sessions and meetings and luncheons and planning. So everyone has had the oath of office, and we're hard at work.
Great. Yeah. I introduced you as vice mayor. That's a vote every year, right? Or is that every year? So you're vice mayor until when? Mid-January or first part of January?
Yeah, the first meeting in January, then we will appoint or vote on the vice mayor for the next year. So that'll happen in January. So
do you still want to do it?
I'll still be happy to do it. Yes.
Gotcha.
It's my role as vice mayor is basically to be able to step in if the mayor has a conflict, or if mayor's not at a meeting, then I run the meeting for him. So it's at this point, mayor's pretty much, he's strong, he's healthy, he goes to pretty much everything. So it has not been that stressful for me. Now he teases me a lot, like other people do. Like, he's going to speak at a meeting. He's like, "Oh, Maureen, I don't feel good." I'm like, "Oh no, yes you do."
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's funny.
So we all, So we'll see what happens in January. But I'll be honored to be the vice mayor again. But if I'm not, then I will help support whoever it will be.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. So, John, how you doing, man? MC
I'm
Don,
good.
we call it.
It's good to be back. The Blenders is a group that I discovered about 20 years ago that has a really cool harmonic vibe. So I've kind of rediscovered the Blenders this year. They're kind of my go-to Christmas group this season. So for all you out there that don't know the Blenders,
Check them out.
You'll love
Every download, the town of Carterville gets 2 cents.
I wish.
So I've never heard of the Blenders. So the Blenders today is not an economic development play. Then this is just, you want to throw out some Christmas music.
I wanted to throw out some Christmas information to those who are searching for something new and different this holiday season. But in my Keith manner, we are doing a good job. I think you alluded to it earlier in your pre-talk. The town does a great job in blending different types of uses and clients and partners and applications into this thing we call the town of Carterville. How about that?
Nice.
Very good. I'm impressed.
Wrap it all together.
Wrap it up. Yeah, wrap it together. Put a bow on it.
Yeah. So the thing is that the Christmas time is the perfect time to really recognize the powerful blend that Carterville has throughout all of the events. We can find a way to play this. We can play this 5 different ways, right?
No doubt.
So what is happening? You've been in the officing segment really for a while, right? That you've been focusing on growing that. I mean, there's been a lot of activity there, more than what we've seen in the other segments. Tell us what's going on.
Well, it was somewhat of a mystery because, oftentimes these big projects come through, they've got a code name, and for a variety of reasons that we can get into later. They don't want it fully known who it is, what it is, and where it is. So you sort of kind of calmly and quietly walk these things through. But at some point, you've got to announce what's coming, because people need to know what they're voting on or what they're approving, et cetera. So Orgel Incorporated, which is a large national and international distributor of hardware store products, is also a hardware store consultancy, who built their corporate headquarters on Houston Levee between Winchester and 385 about 5 years ago. 100,000 square foot, $21 million investment, about 350 people in there. They built that, which was wonderful. They have made the strategic decision to expand from that and create what they're calling a customer solution center, which will be a 500,000 square foot facility, about a third of it offices, meeting rooms, things like that. But most of it, 2/3 to 3/4 of it, is going to be a showroom or a place where they can create and set up mock hardware stores, so their clients can come in to understand what is possible for their business and can look at different concepts of a store model that they can then incorporate with the help of Orgel, to include product demonstrations. Orgel distributes over 75,000 products, Stanley, Black & Decker, people like that. So their suppliers can also come there and do product demonstrations. So it's going to be a gathering place, a lot of movement, almost like a convention center in a way, or a showroom in many ways, but it allows Orgel to continue to do what they do well, and that is hardware distribution and hardware store consultancy. And that's all going to happen under that roof there between Houston Levee and Bailey Station, south of Winchester, north of 385. So that is a $77 million investment in land, building, and property, tangible property like hardware, furniture, computers, things like that. It's the third largest project in our town's history, third only to FedEx World Technology Center and the high school. So $77 million project. It's a pretty big deal, which now will create for Orgel a campus and an almost $100 million investment in our community, with over 400 people working there and another 700 to 1,000 people coming to Collierville annually and spending 2, 3, 4 days in our town working with Orgel, but also going to our hotels, our restaurants, and our other commercial partners. So it's a pretty large-scale project with a lot of short-term and long-term impacts on our community.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did two things. One, I'll say, just to plug one of our favorite clients that we work with, Beeswax Polish. They work with Orgel to get into hardware stores. So Orgel is a distributor there of Beeswax Polish. So that's a good thing. But also I was going to ask, so you see this model. I've seen this. This was a big deal for Memphis whenever Hilton Hotels started building out these mock hotel rooms at the Hilton headquarters, and then bringing people in and saying, this is why you want the Hilton banner, and then showing them the different setups and the modern, and here's how we're going to adapt to USB plugins and all of that type of stuff. And so people are coming in town and saying, okay, I'm thinking about a hardware store. I want to remodel my hardware store. This is Orgel saying, here's what we found is the best way to do that. Here's the different options that you can do it. So it's going to bring people into town, like you said, 700 to 1,000 people a year. That's a good thing, because they're using our restaurants, our hotels. We're becoming a destination there. And people are coming in town to now see our Orgel that maybe weren't. But does it also create jobs, or is this just a showroom extension of the people that are currently working there? Are there new jobs coming as well?
Yeah, there'll be about 75 new jobs. So, a lot of these economic development projects, I'll just, talk about Mueller and Orgel and others, are typically $20 to $25 million in capital investment and 150 to 300 jobs, typically. Like IMC was 21 million, almost 400 jobs. So a lot of jobs, but this is more of a big real estate play, if you will. It's 3 or 4 times larger as far as the capital investment is concerned when compared to IMC or Mueller or somebody like that. So it's a big real estate deal with some jobs, not 150, 300 jobs, 400 jobs, but 75 jobs. But there are other economic development, direct and indirect impacts of having this. Like you said, 700, 1,000 people coming into our town 2, 3, 4 days a year. I guarantee you, the Marriott Towns Place Hotel in Schilling Farms, the Fairfield, the Courtyard, they will love that. Places like Collierville Commissary, Jim's Place, etc., will enjoy that. So it's an economic driver. And you look at short term, the construction payroll to build this thing is going to be $22 million.
Oh, wow.
And they will employ about 600 plus people. So that's about $40,000 a year jobs. So it helps the regional economy when you bring in something like this, because the short-term impact's pretty sizable. And then long-term, it's pretty impressive as well. So not a ton of jobs, but a lot of economic impacts that we will see in the short term and the long term.
Yeah, I just was doing some quick math. I mean, if you've got 1,000 people coming in for average of 4-night stays, that's 4,000 stays in a year. You take some sort of a per diem rate that includes hotel and food and those type of things. Maybe you say $200 a day in per diem. Hotel's going to cost you 100, 120 at least. Then you got food and those type of things. Maybe Enterprise gets a pickup on some rental cars. But let's just say it's $200. That's $800,000 a year in income coming in just off of those stays. If you start looking at 4,000 stays at a $200 per diem, that's 800,000. I bet you could get over $1 million pretty easily. So it's pretty impactful, and that's every year. This is not just it continues to be occurring. So I mean, once you start really drilling down on these things, then you can see the impact that it makes to a town. You're talking about gross revenue, adding adding $1 million a year over time builds up. I mean, you got in gross income to the town, and these are all to town merchants. These are going to the hotels and to the restaurants and gas and all that type of stuff. So throwing $1 million a year into the economy, that's nothing to shake a stick at. Employees are not.
I'd always like to under promise and over deliver, but the way I have calculated it, I'm looking at $1.5 million to $2 million annual impact of having this all happen. And I'm probably, when you talk to some of these site selection consultants, they tell me I'm being a little conservative. So, but we'll stick to $1.5 million plus. And, but if you think about the fact that I love it when I can say IMC, Mueller, MCR Safety, Juice Plus, Helena, Oracle, CCL have made the strategic decision to invest in our community. And we talk about a $77 million deal that's going to bring people to our community. That's a heck of a commitment and a heck of an investment in Collierville. They've already demonstrated a serious investment by building their corporate headquarters here, $20 million plus. Now here comes this project. It's pretty impressive. And, you talk about Collierville and the work that Maureen does and, this town, how it's managed. People are not going to make $77 million, $100 million investments in a town that they didn't think was going to support them, that they could thrive in, and they would be profitable and sustainable in. And you can say all that about Collierville. So people like IMC and Mueller and Oracle know that, understand that, and demonstrate their belief in that by making these investments. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's good. I mean, like I said, I was just grabbing a calculator and got to $1 million, and I'm not in economic development. So, I mean, to see, I figured that was low. So $1.5 million plus. Yeah. And you got to consider that the people that are coming in town, there's people that work here that are going to lunch with them. So now you got the tickets times 2, there are 3, so it can get up there pretty quickly. I mean, and that's a big deal. So I think that's cool. And that it shows how officing is really an underlying thing in a place like Collierville that helps to promote all of the other aspects of the town and retail and those type of things. So
and another one that's bubbling in the pot, and it's we've been working on it for a while, but it got leaked out in the press, and that's cool. I'm glad it's out there to a certain degree. But Campbell Clinic is talking about building a 30,000 square foot facility in Collierville. That is a national brand. That is an international brand. They are a leader in orthopedic medicine and procedures.
Yeah.
They are an impressive organization as well. and they see value in being in this market. And when, we've been trying to get into that orthopedic therapeutic rehabilitative cluster forever, which is a $6 billion component in the Shelby County economy.
Wow.
To be a bigger part of that now, to me, is good, and could create other opportunities down the road when somebody like Campbell Clinic decides to invest in your community. So all of these projects have ripple effects and indirect effects on what's going on around here. And to bring somebody as prestigious as Campbell to town is another positive step for our community.
Yeah, it's the right foundation, and the right places and the right office is the right foundation for everything else to build off of. So we say that over and over again on this show, but I don't know that people hear it. But it does. So so we'll keep saying it.
I should say John Broken Record Duncan. I mean,
Yeah, me too, man. I tell you what, but we'll keep saying it. Offices are the fundamental. Officing type places are the fundamentals. So stay tuned. We talk about that every week, and you'll learn more about how we're growing. John will bring us and tell us how we're growing. Maureen, on the other hand, is kind of a gatekeeper on some of these things. But let's move to Maureen, because I think we've got maybe 15 minutes left this morning. But we were talking pre-show a little bit. Once it gets into that foundation, you also get into retail and residential, those type of things. Tell us, there was some things I know that happened at the Planning Commission. I know you don't have a full idea, but what is happening with probably the biggest in city type development, potential development that is not on some of our clearly obvious developable areas like Houston Levee and places that we know we're going to grow. There's developments coming there, but almost in the middle of the town is this Ashby development. So all eyes are kind of on this Ashby development to see what's going to happen. Local developers trying to build out there. They keep getting sent back to the drawing board and back to the drawing board. And where are they now? What can you tell us about that? What do you know?
What I know is the Ashby development is, Maynard Way that cuts behind the Walmart. And it connects Poplar Avenue at the Aldi and the Panda Express over behind Walmart, and it connects at Byhalia Road. And there has been different proposals that have been presented. There has been a lot of neighborhood opposition from neighbors and residents that live on White Road. And the initial plan that was presented included a cut through that was going to, cut through to White Road at Queen Oaks. There is a big detention area. You don't really notice it because it's full of kudzu at this point, but there's a big detention area there at that intersection. And so the residents were not happy with that. So there was a lot of discussion within the Planning Commission. Now, nothing has come for us to vote on at this point regarding the overall development. We have heard from the apartment complex. They've kind of carved out one area for apartments that is behind what is currently Collierville Funeral Home. And it would back up the west side of Collierville United Methodist Church. So that's a separate entity over within the whole large development. So I can come back to that in a minute. So the developers have listened to the residents. They have done studies. They have regrouped, and they have presented a new plan, and they have requested an amendment to the major road plan. So the major road plan is a plan that Collierville has. It's continuing to change, but we've had it for many, many, many years. And if you go on Maynard Way, there is a stub out road, and you can see a cut through, and it's going somewhere, but at this point it doesn't go anywhere. So the plan, the major road plan, was for that stub out road from Maynard Way to connect to White Road at Queen Oaks. Well, after doing studying and talking to the EPA and the TDEC, which is the Department of Environmental Commission, I believe it stands for, it would be very difficult to put a road because of the way the ditch and the drainage is. So then the proposal was to go through at Six Crowns. So they wanted to have a cut through road still, but connect to Six Crowns. And to me, Six Crowns is very close to Byhalia Road. Me personally, if we can't get it to work where it connects to Queen Oaks, there's really, in my mind, it's not really going to alleviate any traffic or add extra access for people on Six Crowns. It's because it's so close to Byhalia Road. So the developer has presented an amendment to amend the major road plan and a new plan for Ashby that includes some residential that's off of White Road and the Dove Valley area, and then also some commercial and some office and a whole mixed use development.
Right.
Planning Commission did hear it, and I don't believe there was any opposition at their last meeting. It hasn't come to us yet. I believe that will be in January.
What kind of housing?
Individual single-family homes, R2, R3 homes that will kind of mirror what's there already on White Road. And then there'll be some access off of White Road into some streets, so additional housing. So all the housing will be north, close to the neighborhoods that are there currently.
When you say R1, R2, for those that don't live in that world, are we talking about what I would think of as a standard home with a nice yard, not a small yard product, but more of a traditional Collierville model? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, there's different lot sizes, whether it's a R1, R2, R3. When you get into what we call R3, they're smaller lot sizes. But you have developments in Collierville that are considered R3 that are smaller lots, but they're still selling for $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. It's a market for people that want the really nice house and all the amenities in the house, but they don't want to mow the grass or they don't need a play set in the backyard any longer. So there's different lot sizes, but the lot size doesn't necessarily dictate the size of the home, because you can have an R1, which is a 15,000 square foot lot, and have a 2,000 square foot home on that property. So I believe this is R2. So it's kind of in the middle where you have a 12,000 square foot lot. Sometimes you can put the house a little closer to the street to give yourself a little more backyard space. So yes, there's technicalities for each one. A lot of it has to do with what the zoning is, how many lots you're allowed to have. And a lot of it, what we look at is usable lots. So if you have a development and you have a drainage ditch going through it, that you can't develop on that. So that eliminates some of the density, the number of homes that you can have. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Now, I'll get back to the apartment. So the apartment complex, they came in and they have what we call the entitlements or the rights to build that number of apartments. They were zoned, they were given that long before any of us were even thinking about serving our community. Right. And so they came in with a plan, and they also asked for some waivers in the plan. And we have very strict standards, and we have very strict standards on apartments. So if they want to come, they have to be top-notch apartments in Collierville. And they came through, and there were some waivers that they were requesting. And so the board did not vote in favor of that development with the waivers. So they're coming back, I understand, and they're going to modify their plan without any of the waivers that they had requested.
So
one of them was the setback. We have a requirement that the apartments have to be set so far off the road. You have to have an 8-foot fence. You have to have landscaping. And they had laid out the apartment complex where it was going to be much closer to Maynard Way than I thought it should be. So the whole idea is we don't want them right up against the road. We just basically don't want people to see them. People that need an apartment will know where the apartment is, but it's not going to be something that you go down the road and you're looking, and right there next to you is an apartment complex.
So if I'm driving around like where Town Hall is and there's those apartments right across the street there, are those with the setback that you're talking about?
No, because those were built many, many, many years ago. I think they were built in the 70s, maybe, or 60s or 70s. And the requirements have changed through the years, have been updated for the current standards and such. So that kind of has an exception. But let's just say that apartment complex, something happens and they have to rebuild. They're going to have to rebuild with the new standards.
Okay. But the net of that is that this is working the process, right? There's going to be apartments there. Right.
Yes.
I mean, that's going to happen. I mean, I think we can all. I mean, can we confidently say there's going to be apartments there?
I believe so. As long as the developer still is interested in developing and the property owner is interested in selling that property to them, they can have the apartments as long as they comply with all the rules. Now,
right.
From what they presented to us, there's not going to be a lot of people get concerned with schools and school capacity, which I know our school system is doing a study now, a growth study, to see what are the needs of the school system, because we all have to work together. Sure. But the numbers that they presented to us, most of those are going to be 1-bedroom apartments. So they're not going to be intended for families with lots of children. There may be 2-bedroom apartments, but the studies that they have presented us were a lot of times, especially since COVID, the 1-bedroom is the sleeping bedroom and the other bedroom is the office space. So the numbers they presented, and they have to do all kinds of studies, is it won't be a whole lot of families that are going to be impacting the schools and the capacity at our schools.
And that's a school issue more than it is a developer issue, right? I mean, if I were a developer coming to town, and if you, like you said, if they have this land and everything meets the requirements, then if you tell them no, then they have a right to sue you, and they're probably going to win. And I don't think you can tell them no because you say our school systems aren't ready for you to build, so we're going to hold up your dollars and your investment. That seems to be a school issue, right? I mean, the school's going to have to expand and adapt to meet what the growth plan is. So that's not it. You can't go back to the developer and say, sorry, the schools aren't ready, right?
No, you can't. And that's why the schools and the town and the planning division are all work together to try to stay ahead of the need and the demand, to try to anticipate the growth. Where's the growth going to happen? Where are we going to need a future school? Do we right now there? I know the school system is they're expanding at the high school, adding some additional capacity, which was planned when the school was built. They just didn't build it at that time. And so now they're ready to add on to a couple of the education, the classroom wings. And they had a grant from FedEx for this aviation program. So they have to have space for simulators and everything that goes with that. So,
and I'll tell you too, I think people maybe have forgotten about it or think about it as a COVID era type thing, but Carville does have a virtual academy that's pretty strong and doing a pretty good job. And I think people that, forget about what are some of the benefits of the Carville Virtual Academy as well. So I think talking through that should be something to consider, I would think as well.
Yes,
But, some people it's not right for, and some people it is right for, but it's a legitimate school system, and it has merits on its own. So anyway, all right. Yep. So apartments are coming, and I want to ask you, because I was reading on Daily Memphian and I'm a little bit confused because we're talking about you're talking about the cut through, but the cut through has gone through the Planning Commission. But I saw something on Daily Memphian about Alderman Worley not voting, holding out from the vote there. But why would he be voting? Did it come through the BMA or what? I don't understand what happened there.
Yeah, no. Alderman Worley is the alderman liaison to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
So he sits on the Planning Commission, and so he did not vote on that agenda item. He will hear it at the mayor and board level.
Okay.
All of us serve on different boards and commissions. Like John Stamps is at the Design and Review Commission. And so sometimes they may not vote at that level, but basically listen and be there and ask questions and then vote at the net when it comes to the BMA.
And this was because some of that housing that you were talking about, John Worley is a developer, and some of the housing that might come into around there, he might want to be one of the developers or might want to be one of the developers. And so he wants to pull himself out and say, I want to maintain the integrity of the vote without. I'm glad I commend him for doing that. I think that's the right thing. And when people start shooting darts at the BMA and say you're full of real estate and real estate developers, well, number one, that if you want to make a living in Carville, that's probably about the best way to do it is to be in real estate or in development. You don't want to penalize people for that. But two, if you've got an interest there, to step back on the vote is the right thing to do, and it's how you maintain integrity of the BMA vote, and it's easy to do that. So I commend him. I'm glad. I think that was the right thing to do, and whether he chooses to do it or not for the BMA will be his decision. But I think it's cool the more that they do that, and it shows integrity of the BMA to everyone that's out there shooting darts at it. It exemplifies that no, here's how you can do it, and there's certain things or whatever that we weigh in on, don't weigh in on. Do you agree, Maureen? Is that the right thing to do?
Yeah, I do agree. And, there's six of us on the mayor board of aldermen. And so if one has to step out, recuse themselves, if they may have, a potential conflict, there's still, you trust the other ones to make the right decision. So that's another reason why there's six of us. And we all are looking out for the best interests of the community. I believe that no one is doing this job for any of their self-benefit or self-interest. It is considered, it's not a full-time job for any of us. Right. It's a service. You're giving of your time and your expertise and your family time and all that to give back to your community. So it is part-time. It's a lot of work, but it's not your sole. At one point, several of the aldermen were retired. And so, but now we all have jobs, we all have business, and we have to look at our schedules really hard and say, okay, can we meet at this time for this? And we make it all happen. So,
Maureen, I saw something out there that Germantown was exploring the possibility of making the mayor's job a full-time job. Too. Did you see that? Do you have any thought or comment on that as relates to Germantown and maybe Carterville?
You know, every community has what we call our charter, and our charter defines how our town government is set up. So we have what we call a strong administration, weak mayor and board. We're not weak, but we're weak in the sense that the town administrator is the day-to-day in charge of the responsibility of running the town of Carterville. We're more of the policy makers and that. Germantown set up a different. We all in Carterville report to our town administrator, which Molly Maynor is now with us and doing an excellent job, meeting a lot of people. And but in Germantown, the aldermen report to the mayor, who report to the town administrator. So their charter is set up different than we are in Carterville.
Okay.
And so you can't really compare. We compare and we benchmark and things with Germantown all the time, but it's just a different setup. You know, the benefit in Carterville to the taxpayers is we're all considered part-time, but I've always said when you have a part-time employee, you get full-time work because you're going to do the same amount of work no matter what it takes. And the mayor, you know, he's constantly on call. I mean, he probably works full-time hours now, but it's considered a part-time position. So it'll be interesting what happens over in Germantown. And I know they're just starting the conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking of the new town administrator, has she found a home in Carterville yet?
I believe she's renting for now. I believe that's what I have heard. Close to the historic district, yes. And you know,
Maynard Way. Maybe she should be on Maynard Way.
Maybe she will be. Yeah,
that's the perfect place for her. It's her street,
right. Her husband is in town now, and I think they're wrapping things up in Cape Girardeau. And we had a fun, emotional board meeting Monday night this past week. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen announced and revealed and totally surprised James Llewellyn. And we named the board chambers within Town Hall the James H. Llewellyn Board Chambers. And so we've ordered a really nice plaque, and they're going to have some lettering over the door and a portrait. And I think we caught him off guard Monday night. And so the community is invited on Thursday evening, tonight, actually, at 6 p.m. at Carterville First Baptist Church in the Fellowship Hall. There's a reception. Meet, just give him your best wishes for his retirement, and
absolutely,
that'll be fun too. But.
Yeah, I saw him I was walking out of our office on the square, and he was just kind of standing on the curb outside of Brooks Collection, just kind of hanging around. I was like, "You practicing for the unemployment line? Is that what's happening here?" He was like, "Yeah, absolutely." But you gotta love James. Doing a great job for the city, and continues to kind of be involved even when. But he's a lot of what Carterville is today. So yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
We will all miss him, but we still have his cell phone number, so that's good.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I hope that he doesn't answer it. I think is the piece of that. But so he needs to go to Hawaii. I think, and so. But anyway, good show today, guys. Appreciate you. We're talking about the economic development infrastructure for the town, moving into residential and schools, and how all of this fits together. And it's just a really cool puzzle to me to see how all of this fits together. And that's what this show's about. And as we get into 2023. We hope you'll follow along. A lot's happening in Carterville, but if it interests you at all about, again, how these pieces fit together, there's so many different angles, then watch this show. You can go out on social media and you can discuss it, but if you want the facts are here on Thursday mornings. And these guys are going to bring it to you, and I'm going to do my best to keep them straight. And we're going to continue to bring this to you. It is a commitment for us to come on Thursdays, but guys, the more you follow us, the more we want to do it. So watch it, share it. If you have questions, put them in the comments. and we'll get back to you. So we may be a little hit or miss as we go through the holiday season here on these Thursdays, but definitely starting in 2023, I think we plan to really be back on schedule and providing all the information that we can. So appreciate everyone, and appreciate you guys. So we'll see you next week, or if not, soon after.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you all.
See you.